Winning in the Margins with Jamion and Jeff. Today we're going to talk about the importance of the bench. Jamion, man, how you been?
I've been great, man. It's great to be back on here and great to see that our following is growing every single week. So we're super appreciative of those who are tuning in each week and checking us out on YouTube and on wherever you find your podcast at. So we're super appreciative of everyone checking us out.
Yeah, man, for sure. Hey, we're looking for folks to get off the bench, man. I understand you have a story to tell us.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'll tell you what sparked this was a conversation I was having with some venture capitalists when I was at the Big East tournament. And we're talking about environments. And you have venture capitalists who are investing a ton in other people's businesses and really other people's dreams. And then they get a chance to kind of come in and watch how things are operating. And so we started talking about the bench and the people who are not the CEOs, but those who are supporting the CEO and supporting those who are second in charge. And the story, I remember when I was a head coach at Siena, and we had this like amazing season. We won 10 more games than they had won the year before. We had finished second. We were picked to finish dead last in the league. And we had some great players, no doubt. We got Jalen Pickett, who's an All-American, legitimate All-American. And so we had some great players. But the conversation wasn't about the great players that we had. The conversation was about what transpired that year. And every good team I've been a part of has had an incredible bench. And I remember, one story to explain this, we do a couple things that are a little bit different. And we come in at halftime. Everybody always thinks we make these crazy halftime adjustments. And you have these historic speeches at halftime, which sometimes does happen. But most of the time when we come in at halftime, my question to the team is, all right, what do we need to do better? Now, our coaches, we've huddled and we have a list of things and actions and all that. But I think it's really powerful to give your team the opportunity to label what needs to be worked on. Now, the Siena group was so special because everyone in the locker room would contribute. And when I say everyone, I mean our student managers. We had 4 student managers that year. Our operations, our volunteer assistant, our athletic trainer, our strength coach, everyone participated, and everyone in that locker room respected what each person had to say. It was so unique. We'd have a student manager, and you think about student manager, they're the same age or similar ages, and they're doing all the dirty work, washing the laundry, cleaning up the locker room, taking care of the guys and all the things you don't see behind the scenes. And I remember when this kind of happened about 12 games into the season, our student manager speaks up at halftime. Coach, we're not getting enough deflections. We're not being active enough on the ball. Now, his stats were, the stats he kept were deflections, whatever. And I remember someone in that locker room going, "Hey, Danny, you're right." And I was like, wow, that's it's so interesting because, I spent a lot of time, obviously I was at GW the last 3 years, and I don't know if we ever got that level of respect between our manager and our players, and everyone felt like we're all going in the same direction. But that year at Siena, we were able to do that. And from that moment on, that player empowered the manager to speak up. And it was a beautiful conversation that started happening. And every game, everybody was locked in on winning. Everybody was locked in on what they could do best. And so when I talk about environments and the importance of the bench, it's also important for those who are playing and serving and and who are seen as the highest to respect everybody. And when you see that kind of environment where everyone's working together, unbelievable things can happen. We didn't win a championship that year, but it's one of the years I was most proud of because we made so much progress because everybody in that locker room really felt like they had a voice.
I hear the word trust. That's my takeaway in that with that story. How did that come about? How did you let everybody know at the beginning, hey, you all have a voice. So if you have something to say, or did it just organically happen because of?
Yeah, we always talk about that. But it doesn't mean that it always carries over. We're preaching that from the very beginning. It's every one of us.
What are you preaching?
We're preaching that we're all here to help one another. We're preaching that we all have strengths and we all have weaknesses. When you really love something, you respect the strengths, but you also respect the weaknesses. and you allow the people around you to fill in the gaps or areas where you might be a little bit weaker, and you appreciate that process. So when we're talking about preaching it, like we're preaching that we're all here for a purpose. Every person here on this roster, 1 through 15, plus managers, athletic trainer, coaches, all the way up, we all have a purpose to serve our team and to serve one another. But it doesn't mean that every year the players have a great respect for everyone. And so it's really hard to get that buy-in. I do feel like we've done that a lot through my career because we do preach it. But that year was so special because I can't imagine, and I should preface, the managers felt powerless the year before. You think about this; these guys are their environment was complete opposite of our environment.
Okay.
Their environment was based off a hierarchy. Our environment is based off everybody working together as one.
Okay.
So that transition, and a lot of programs are built that way, especially in sports. Like Aaron Rodgers wants to add 3 receivers from the Packers, and the Jets are gonna try to do this because there's a hierarchy of what Aaron demands. And I think I think you have to work together to fix that. But I think having a hierarchy really challenges how much you can grow, because by having a hierarchy, you're taking power away from those who have thoughts, opinions, expertise that you're going to need.
Right on. Within that hierarchy, there is to remove the hierarchy, there has to be an understanding of purpose, and there has to be an understanding that you're part of the purpose. What was your relationship like with your managers, your stat keepers, if you will? Yeah. How did they know? How did that? It was a man.
Yes.
How did that young man know that it was all right for him to open up at halftime? Because I know you can say, hey, everybody's welcome, everybody is, but there's stuff that goes on within the season. There's something that I would imagine, a relationship that you had with him, that he knew just how valuable his role was. What did that look like from the
beginning? I think there's a couple things. Number one, we've talked about the workbook that I believe in that we use with our team. We've spoken a little bit about that. Most of the times when you do an activity like that, you only have the team members there, but I don't believe in that. I believe when you do that, you have everybody there. Like everyone's in from day one. So we're working through these different, and when you're working through this workbook, it sounds so corporate. There are really emotional and vulnerability points that we hit through this workbook.
Okay.
This is not just a workbook that you're just filling out things. This is where you're pouring your heart out on the page, and then you're sharing with the group. So we demand that everybody is there for those, not just players, coaches share in that, managers share in that, everybody shared. We have shared ownership over that process.
Can you give an example?
One of the things you can talk, we would maybe talk about is, let's just keep it really light and simple. The first moment that you loved the game of basketball. And you have to write it down, and you have to describe it with, as detailed as possible, that imagery. And then you're going to read that in front of the group. And we're going to have everybody read that moment in front of a group or in small groups. We may have someone write about the first time they were super frustrated playing basketball and what made them frustrated and what happened that day that they were frustrated. And we're going to share that in the group, right? Because if I know what you love and how it looks like, I can learn so much about you, but if I can also learn a lot from knowing what makes you mad, what frustrates you.
Yeah.
And I think you need to know both sides of that. So we would have conversations like this, and then bring them, and then we bring them to the group and you share.
So you're getting to know the heart and the mind. And then there's a lot of relatability right from the beginning, because typically one person's frustrations is going to be another 2 or 3 people in the group's frustrations. Another person's moment of when they love the game of basketball is going to relate to another. And so now we're starting to grow and love each other.
Yeah. And it's amazing watching how many commonalities people have from different backgrounds, but they never label it the same.
Yeah.
And so those are kind of activities that we use to really bring our group closer together. They've been super successful. So we kind of start there with just treating everybody the same way.
Okay. Okay.
And we're treating everybody the same way. Like every iron sharpens iron is what we always talk about, and everybody in that locker room has to be an iron. So we're doing that. Secondly, we give our managers really precise things that we're working on. One guy might be doing the data for the shooting. One guy might have rebounding responsibilities for this person, and then their responsibility is to make sure they're inputting that into this formula, whatever it is. In practice, each manager has a role and a responsibility. And in practice, I don't even think about this, is just sort of the way to operate, but in practice, I'll say, how many deflections do we have? How many box outs do we have? And their responsibility is to upload it, communicate it in practice if I yell it out to them, and to put it, wherever format. We usually use Slack so they can keep updating it all the time. So I think by giving responsibility and trusting them to do their job, and I guess thirdly would be, let's say our box outs aren't great or whatever it is. I bring them in, they meet with me, and I ask them, like, what are you seeing on this? This is what I'm seeing. What are you seeing? And then some of these guys are basketball guys. Some of these guys are not basketball guys, but I just want their level of expertise because they're watching the same thing over and over again. So maybe in a way that's like elevating them as the year goes, as the moments come on, because I'm trusting them, as much as I would anybody else with something that's super important, but really detailed.
Responsibility, trust from the coach, their feedback, their opinion on the whole thing equals a whole ton of value. So you have 15 people plus support staff all feeling valued. Now, how did you bring the players into the mix with the support staff to help them see how much value everyone around and outside of them without a basketball was to the team?
That's a good question. That group was pretty special. So I start with
there are special groups.
Yeah, I start with that was a special group.
In my experience, in any culture I've ever been in, and any team I've ever been on, it's the character and the makeup that you've described within here that lets me know that special group became everything they were capable of because of the way that it was led, the direction that they were in. And so I'm just asking, another layer, like why, like how did the team know that the managers, that the statisticians mattered so much?
I think we set the standard of it. We were going to appreciate each other.
Give us an example. So this is for the listener, right?
Yeah.
So I can see it. I see how it happens. I can see you shouting in practice, "Hey, where are we on deflex right now in practice? Where are we on deflex?" And man, they're ready to fire that because that's what they're on fire for. That's their purpose. That's their and the fire that you get from receiving that in order to relay, "Hey guys, these deflections are way down," or "Hey guys, we are crushing these deflections today. Keep this up. This is the energy we're supposed to have." And now that's I'm going to say organically, but it's present and everybody's resonating off of it. And that's what I'm hearing from what you're seeing, but that's because I get this world. Yeah. So for the listener, if you can help from a business standpoint, from another coach's aspect, and a leader that's understanding how dynamics are run, whether business or sport, is going to be able to pick up on the analogy or metaphor that you provide regardless. And so if you can just provide one from your perspective, I'd love the audience to be able to hear how that happens.
I would say what first comes to mind is we weren't going to let anyone bully anyone. Everybody had a responsibility and everybody wanted to do it to the best of their ability, and we were going to respect that. Like, this is one of the few years. So every place we'd go, we have like locker room assignments, right? And we do this thing where we have the players clean the locker room. Now the managers kind of tidy up. Most places, the managers clean up the locker room. All right. We have this thing where we're going to leave our space. Everything we do, we're going to leave it better than we found it every day. And it's everybody's responsibility to do that. It's not the manager's responsibility to leave it better. It's everyone's responsibility to leave it better. And so we kind of build this, it's like a chore sheet in the locker room. The guys fill out and they have a responsibility. You know, every Monday, Tuesday, these people make sure everything's tidy. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we just balance it all the way out. And that group was the best group ever of doing that. And just having respect for their environment. And then, after practice, guys are always shooting around and stuff like that. And the managers they have to do the laundry. So if a guy's there 2 hours, you have to wait.
Okay.
That group was the best at, hey, let me go change so you can take this and I'll come back out here and finish. It was just like an incredible respect for what every person had to do. Now, I do also think the managers had a big role in this because they were so unselfish. Like if Jalen Pickett wanted to shoot at 11 o'clock at night, one of those guys would say, oh, I'll be there at 11 o'clock at night.
Right.
Like the managers were so hardworking that the players couldn't help but respect it. I mean, but I shouldn't say couldn't help it because I've seen really hardworking managers and I've seen players not respect it. But I think what I guess I'm trying to say is there's a level of respect that we decided we're going to have for one another. And that level of respect was for everyone. And early on we had a player who didn't respect it and they didn't last very long.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It was like, this is not how we're going to operate here.
And they were meant to be apart. They just didn't realize it. And hopefully someday they do. That's where the beauty is found. It's not found alone. It's found within. And I hear you. I summarize this with one statement. Everything you just said. We take care of our home together.
Yeah, I love that. And it's really that simple. Like, we all have a responsibility. We all have to live on it. And let's do the job the best of our ability. So that's what we talk about. I guess we talk about the importance of the bench. But I guess that's really about the importance of everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone having their part, everyone having their place, everyone being secure in their place. And it's amazing the relationships that every one of us in that group, I was only there 11 months. The relationships that we have, that bond that we have as a group is one of the most special I've had in my coaching career. And we did not win a championship. We finished a little bit short of that. So I don't necessarily think winning is everything, but I think there's championship components that are built on the journey to becoming a winner. And that team was really building those components.
And when you talk about championship, you won 10 more games that season than you had the previous year. Championships are maximizing your absolute potential. Yeah. There's teams that are home right now. We're right in the, depending on you, somebody could be listening to this 3 years from now. Right now, we're neck deep. We're in the Final Four. We're heading into the Final Four. You got a 9 seed, 2 5 seeds, and a 4 seed, right? There's teams that didn't maximize their potential. There's teams that exceeded to other people's eyes their potential. And there's teams that are just getting better right now. They're still getting better. And, so when you talk about championships, you may have very well won a darn championship. And that's why it's important to know where the heck you are, because you're going to hear all kinds of other people tell you where you are. But if we know we're making constant progress, if we know we're loving one another, when you love, you don't have any other choice but to make progress, because love only comes from that hard work, that effort, that responsibility, that opportunity to provide feedback to the star player, the head coach. We know that those guards are down and we all matter. That's what it looks like, man, when we're taking care of our home. No, I got that. No, it's my job. No, you go ahead and get out of here, manager. I'll throw the laundry in tonight. You've been working hard. I got you. But you're the starting point guard. I got you. Get out of here.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it went that far, but, we take care of our home is the bottom line. It's different.
You're not far off. I mean, there are many times where the players were pushing the laundry cart down to the laundry room, and it was some really neat stuff. Like they'd be with the managers pushing the laundry cart, and they'd be talking, going down the hallway. and they would stay with them sometimes while they were like doing it, and they would talk. I think everyone just having an appreciation for everyone, obviously the best way to maximize your potential.
When you get a group like this, it's not a responsibility, it's a gift. It's an opportunity. It's love. It's an opportunity to be together with someone else that's in the fight with you, that's supporting you, that's loving you. And so we're painting the picture with all these roles people are playing, but in a beautiful world on a beautiful team. The reason we're pushing a cart is we don't even realize we're pushing the darn cart. We're just in our home taking care of business. And when it feels like that, man, that's when you're in the right spot.
I agree. Let's end it there. That's a good one there. Um, we appreciate you for joining Jeff and Jamion on Winning in the Margins. We'll see you soon.